Welcome to the Wisdom That Breathes channel. Across all our platforms, we try to share wisdom which is relevant and accessible to everyone. But on this particular platform, we go deeper into some of the ancient principles found within the scriptures. If you find some of the terminology difficult or inaccessible, then go over to our Keshava Swami YouTube channel where you'll be able to find other content which is perhaps more relatable. Thank you and enjoy the wisdom that breathes.
So this evening we are discussing the invisible world. This world, this material world, is made up of different dimensions, and therefore we see something with our eyes. But there are so many things in this world that our eyes cannot perceive. Sometimes there are things that people see that are not really there. One time a devotee, one of the early hippies who joined the Hare Krishna movement, he said, Swamiji, when I offer my food, I see some glowing green light around the food. Prabhupada said, carry on chanting, it will go away. So sometimes there is hallucination. The invisible world, we see things that are not actually there, isn't it? Sometimes in our minds we make so many conceptions. We see someone, and then immediately in our mind we make a judgment, or we create some kind of assumption of someone else. But all of this is made up. It's not really part of the real world. It's just part of the invisible world. So sometimes the invisible world is something we create in our mind. However, it's also said that there is an invisible world which we don't perceive because we are too busy. We're too busy in our life going along with different duties of life, and therefore we miss certain things. We just don't see it. One time Srila Prabhupada was in a temple and he said, I am seeing but you are not seeing. So everyone thought, my God, something mystical. No, I am seeing but you are not seeing. So Prabhupada said again, I am seeing but you are not seeing. So Prabhupada said, follow me. And then he went into one room and he turned the light off. The light was left on. He said, I am seeing, but you are not seeing, because you're so busy in your life, you're going along so fast-paced, that there are so many things in this world that we are missing. Sometimes in the fast-paced life, we miss the beauty of life. There are so many things that we fail to perceive. Then it's said that there is an invisible world which is inside of us. That world nobody sees. That world only we know what's going on in our own heart. I'll tell you an interesting thing happened. 3 weeks ago I was at Heathrow Airport, so the flight got delayed. So I decided to do something that I've never done before. I went to the prayer room in Heathrow Airport. So I went to the prayer room, common prayer room. So I walked into the prayer room and there was 3 sections. So the first section had a table and it had a Bible. No one was in that section. Somehow, not high demand there. Then the second section, there was one family of Muslim, Islamic family. So they were there, their mats out, they were doing namaz. So I thought, let me carry on going. Let's see what's in the third room. So I went to the third section of the room, and there was it seemed to be all other religions in this room. No one was there either. So I decided to sit down there, and I thought, let me chant some japa. So I was chanting, I was sitting like this, watching them do namaz. It was quite inspirational. So I was chanting, sitting like this. I was dressed like this, of course, and I was chanting. I had my eyes closed, of course, attentive japa, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And anyway, as I was chanting, then I heard some footsteps come into the room. But of course, we're doing attentive japa, so we don't, Although the mind is thinking of so many things, we don't open our eyes, because we have to be attentive, So in my mind, I was thinking, who's that, who's that? But my eyes were closed. Finally, those footsteps came closer to me. So then finally, I had to open my eyes. So I was sitting down like this in the Heathrow Airport prayer room. And I opened my eyes, and 2 security guards were standing there with machine guns right in front of me. And you know what they said? They looked at me, one of them, and he said, "Are you praying?" I looked at him and said, "I don't know, but I'm definitely praying now." It was like, so I said, "Yeah, of course, I'm praying, of course. I know I don't look like, I'm not a pure devotee, but come on, look at me, Of course, I'm a monk, clearly I'm praying." So I said, "Yeah, of course, I'm praying. So they looked at me and they said, "This room is for praying." So I said, "Okay, Krishna." Okay, are these Vishnu Dutas or Yamadutas? Anyway, then they left. So it was quite interesting, no? If someone comes in a room, in a prayer room, and you see me like this, obviously, I'm praying. But I took it as a sign from Krishna. Yes, it's not enough. What's going on in the inner world? What's going on in your heart? What is actually happening where nobody sees? That is also an invisible world that nobody is aware of. So like this, we begin to see there are so many invisible worlds. But it's said also that another type of invisible world is the world that the pure devotees see. The pure devotees, through their vision, they can begin to see things in this world that many of us cannot see. They begin to draw lessons, they see correlations, they see Krishna's hand, they see different arrangements of divinity around them that nobody else can perceive. Like one time Srila Prabhupada was in a park and then he stopped by a tree and he looked down on the ground and there were bird droppings. So Prabhupada said, "What is the meaning of this?" So everyone was looking into the bird droppings for some kind of secret message in the bird droppings. So everyone was looking, my God, what is the mystical? So Prabhupada said, no, there is a deep lesson here. I said, "What's the lesson?" Prabhupada said, "The lesson here is that even the birds get attached to their tree." It's an interesting lesson. Because the bird droppings were there, it means the birds were living there for a long time. Srila Prabhupada said, even the birds get attached to their tree. In other words, it's so easy to get attached to something in this world. So the pure devotees can begin to see lessons that many of us would not be able to perceive. Another time, Srila Prabhupada sent a disciple in London to the bank. And after coming back from the bank to cash the money, Prabhupada asked him, "Did you get the receipt?" The devotee said, no, the cashier gave no receipt. Prabhupada said, "The cashier gave no receipt?" The devotee said, "No." Prabhupada said, "This signifies the end of the British Empire." I said, wow, that's an interesting conclusion. He said, because the British were known for organization and intelligence. And through very few men, they were able to manage many, many countries. He said, but now the bureaucracy has become compromised. And therefore, it's the end of the empire. So it's very, very interesting that the devotees, they can begin to perceive things that we can't see. One time I was in a room in the Brahmachari ashram, so I was a little sick. So one devotee decided to come in and give me a Bhagavatam class. That's what devotees do when you're sick. It all comes back to philosophy. I remember once I was on Harinam. I never wanted to go Harinam in London because I grew up in London. So when I joined, I never wanted to go Harinam in London because, you know, you meet all your old associates. So I would always avoid making up some excuse not to go on Harinam. So one day they said, no, you have to come. But they said, don't worry, we're going to Cambridge. So this is 2-3 hours away. So I said, I said, that's sufficiently far away from London. Okay, I'll do it. So we got into the van on the way to Cambridge. And then lo and behold, as soon as we got on the first motorway, there was a traffic jam. So the devotee said, there's a traffic jam, we're not going to make it there in time. We just have to turn around and we just have to do Harinam in London. I was like, oh no, Krishna. So out of all the places in London, the devotees decided to go right by where my university was. So I was like, Krishna, you have a sense of humor. So I was on the Harinam and I was kind of, I tried to stay right in the middle of the Harinam with enough people around me to cover. So I was walking down and I was walking past my university. So the Harinam was going forward, and I was in the Harinam. And I was looking around, making sure no one spotted me. And then as I turned around, I saw, oh my God, I think that's some of my old friends. So the Harinam party was moving forward, but I was looking back, checking, like, was it them? So I was looking back, but the Harinam was going forward. I was looking back. Harinam was going forward, and bang! I hit a lamppost. So I hit this lamppost, my head. I fainted. And like the whole world was spinning. And then all the devotees came around me and they just started doing a louder kirtan. I was trying to explain to them, I'm not going to leave my body yet. Can someone come and help me here? So they just kept doing a louder and louder kirtan, and then finally one of them reached out and picked me up. And then he said, you learned the lesson, right? I said, what's the lesson? He said, once you come to Krishna consciousness, don't look back. So sometimes it's like that. We come to Krishna consciousness, but we're constantly looking back. What am I missing out on? What are my friends doing? What does everyone else think? But you just have to keep moving forward. Don't look back. So like this, the devotees, sometimes in a difficult situation, they're full of philosophy. So I was once in this room, and this devotee said to me, he sat down with me, I was lying on the bed, I was feeling not very well at all. And then he started giving me a class, and he said, I want to show you 5 things in the room. And these 5 things in the room will tell you all the secrets to life. So I was like, wow, okay, clearly you can see something I can't see. The devotees see the invisible world. So I said, what are you going to show me? So then he said, look up. And then he pointed to the ceiling. And he said, when you see the ceiling, the first lesson of life is aim high. Then he said, look. And then he pointed to the clock. And he said, the second lesson of life is time is precious. Then, the third thing he pointed to was the mirror. There was a mirror in the room. And he said the third lesson of life is reflect before you act. And then he pointed to the door and he said the fourth lesson of life is push hard for your goals. And then on the top in the ceiling there was a fan. And then he looked at the fan and he said, fifth and final lesson, keep a cool head. So these 5 lessons, the devotee sees the invisible world. So these 5 lessons always stuck with me. I'll briefly share these lessons with you, and then I'll invite any questions that may come in your heart and mind. First thing is, when you see the ceiling, aim high. See, in this world, everyone is making their plans, everyone is making their ambitions, everyone is setting their goals. But don't set mediocre goals. Don't set simply material goals. Set goals which are much higher, much more profound, goals that will actually bring you a higher quality of happiness, goals that will make you look back in your life and think, I spent my life well. Once some friends had checked into the hotel in New York City. Gauranga Prabhu was speaking about NYC, the Big Apple. So they checked into the penthouse suite on the 100th floor of the Hilton in New York City, and they all decided to go out to see the city that never sleeps. Anyway, finally, after a long night out, they came back to the hotel, and as they came into the hotel foyer, lo and behold, they saw a sign on the lift saying, lift out of order. So when you're on the 100th floor and the lift is out of order, Hare Krishna. So they said, what to do? We have to bite the bullet. So they began walking up the stairs. They said, after the 10th floor, they said, let's tell each other some stories, otherwise this is going to take a long time. So they started telling each other stories, good stories, funny stories, stories about the past, made up stories. Finally, they got to the 80th floor. They looked at one of the friends and they said, you're very quiet. Why don't you tell a story? He said, you don't want to hear my story. They said, why? He said, my story is tragic. They said, no problem. That will also make the time go quicker. He said, no, my story is, we're on the 100th floor of the building. The lift is out of order. We started walking up. We're on the 80th floor. But the story is that we left the key at reception. So at that moment, they were about to throw him out of the building. Going higher. Going higher and higher and higher. More degrees. BSc, MSc, PhD, MAD. More degrees. Less sense. More conveniences. Less time. Conquered the outer world, but struggling with the inner world. We're going higher and higher, setting higher and higher goals. But are they making people happier? You see, there's a difference between growth, progress, and success. In the world today, they conflate all three of these three things and they say it's the same thing. If you're growing, then it means you're progressing. And if you progress, then it means you're successful. And if you're successful, it means you're happy. But actually, these three things are very, very different things. Growth means, yes, earn more money. Growth means, yes, have a better job. Growth means, yes, rise to the heights of academic success. But growth doesn't mean progress. Because if you grow, but in the process you lose your character, you lose your values, you lose your principles, you lose your life balance, then all of that growth doesn't lead to progress. Only when growth is accompanied by character, values, principles, balance, then it becomes progress. And progress doesn't necessarily mean you're successful, because only when your progress is used for contribution, only when your progress is used for service, only when your progress is used for the pleasure of Krishna and Krishna's service does it become success. And that kind of success is what will bring happiness. So most people are only looking for prosperity. Later on, people look for relationships. Later on, people look for contribution or feeling of achievement. We say this is the happiness of the senses. Then you may go to the happiness of the emotions. And then you go higher to the happiness of the ego. But all of these things, if you don't ultimately use it in spirituality, if you don't use your prosperity in spirituality, if you don't connect your relationships in spirituality, if you don't make your achievements part of some great contribution to the world, then all of those things will not make you happier. And so, the first lesson of life is that when you see the ceiling, aim high. Don't just aim for material things, but aim for how you can then use those material things in service to Krishna. Then your growth becomes progress, which leads to success, which brings about happiness. The second lesson that the devotee taught me in the room was he looked at the clock and he said, time is precious. Chanakya says this, Ayushak shana ekopi nalabhya svarnakotibi nache nirarthakam niti kachahan istatodika. He says, even one moment of time which is wasted, there cannot be any greater loss in life than that, because na labhya, you cannot get it back, svarna koti bi, even if you have millions of gold coins. And therefore, don't waste time. Once I was driving in London and they do graffiti on the walls, so someone had just written, just killing time. So later on I came back and another graffiti artist had come back and crossed it out and said, no, time is killing you. So time is killing you. Time is going. Now coming back to Chowpatty is very reflective. I was here nearly 22, 23 years ago. I can't imagine how the time has gone. Maybe another 22, 23 years and ho gaya. Game over. Time goes. So therefore Srila Prabhupada said, anyone who achieved anything of significance in this world, the one common quality is that they never wasted time. They never wasted any time. Srila Prabhupada said Einstein, he used to only sleep a couple of hours a day. Even Srila Prabhupada hardly slept. When the whole world was sleeping, Srila Prabhupada was awake, utilizing that time. If we're oversleeping, it's not a good sign. If sleeping is more exciting than living, then it means life is not exciting enough. Therefore, we have to find something more exciting. So Srila Prabhupada, because he was so hungry, he was so enthusiastic to serve, therefore Srila Prabhupada had no time to waste. When Srila Prabhupada was in his room and in the middle of the night, he rung the bell and the servant came running in. So he said, Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, why are you sleeping? Prabhupada said, he said, it's the middle of the night, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, I'm living in the same time dimension. It's also the middle of the night, but I'm not sleeping. He said, but Prabhupada, we had a very, very busy day. Prabhupada said, join the club. Me too. So he said, but Prabhupada, I'm not a pure devotee. Prabhupada said, why are you not a pure devotee? By this time he realized I can't win. So he said, Prabhupada, what shall I do? Prabhupada said, go back to sleep. In other words, Prabhupada was making the point that when one becomes sufficiently advanced, then one doesn't want to waste any time. How much time did we waste in our life? So there are some sutras of time. We tell people that if time is utilized, then time expands. You know this one? If in your life you can go to bed at night and you can say, today I didn't waste any time, you know what will happen? When time is utilized, time expands. What Krishna will do is He will open up more time in your life for you to do incredible things. That's why you see the most amazing devotees in the world have an incredible capacity to get things done. And you think, how do they get this all done? And then when you see them, they look completely relaxed. They look like they're having a good time and they're running the world. And you think, how do they do it? Because when time is utilized, time expands. And it's also explained that when desire deepens, then capacity expands. So when your desire to do something is so great that you don't waste any time, then what happens is Krishna gives you extra capacity to do incredible things. And so, try to take this teaching very, very deeply. At night, you can do an audit of everything you did during the day and ask yourself the question, did I waste any time? And on those days when you can say, I didn't waste any time, on those days you are highly rewarded. The third thing this person looked at was the mirror. And he said, reflect before you act. Reflect before you make a decision. Because every single day we make decisions and we have no idea that sometimes what we're doing is we're creating a prison for ourselves. They say we are the prison maker, we are the prisoner, and we are also the prison keeper. By our decisions, we create a life. Then we have to live in that life. But even if we're imprisoned because of our decisions, we also have the power to make a decision to get out as well. Therefore, the decisions, you have to think very, very carefully before you make a decision, because it may have ramifications that you're not aware of. Once there was a husband and a wife, and it was their 40th wedding anniversary. They were both 60. So the genie came to them and said to the man, one wish, anything you want. So he said, I wish I had a wife which was 30 years younger. And then boom, he became 90. He said, oh my God. No, there must be some mistake here. No, you want it. You want it, there you go. We make a decision, we have no idea. We think we're clever. We think we're one step ahead of everyone else. And then we make decisions which we then get trapped in. Sometimes we make decisions because of people. Oh, everyone is doing, therefore I'll also do. Sometimes we make decisions because of tradition. We've always done it like this, so continue on. Sometimes we make decisions because I feel like it. Sometimes we make decisions because of logic. If I do like this, then it will work. All of these bases for making decisions, beware. They could entrap you and imprison you in a life you weren't expecting. Therefore, The safe basis for making a decision is Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. These are your guiding principles. Whenever making decisions, try to take principles from Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, and then you can rest assured that your life will go in a positive direction. The fourth thing that the person pointed out in the room was the door. And he said, push hard for your goals. Once someone came to Picasso and said, can you draw this painting for me? So Picasso drew the painting in a whiz, in a few minutes. And so Picasso gave over the painting and said, that will be $1 million. I said, $1 million? Yeah, this is a 1 minute job for you. $1 million. He said, but this was only a 1 minute job for you. He said it was a 1 minute job because I spent 30 years practicing. I spent 30 years practicing, and therefore I became accomplished. They say in the world today, if you want to become expert at something, you have to do it for 2.5 hours every single day for 10 years. I tried that one with japa, but it still doesn't work. Still work in progress. It's coming, hopefully. Krishna's mercy. You have to have discipline. The pain of discipline is uncomfortable, but the pain of regret is unbearable. So if you don't push hard for your goals, if you don't have discipline, if you don't have consistency, if you don't have commitment, if you don't do your sadhana every single day, then how can you expect that you will then have deep spiritual experiences? It's not possible. Therefore, nowadays in the world, they call it the cost of living crisis. Oh yes, the cost of living is going up. So what I explain to people is, this is not the cost of living, this is the cost of existing. It's a cost of existing crisis. The cost of living, my friend, is much higher than just a number. The cost of living is that you have to be ready to take a risk. And that means you have to pay the price of comfort. The cost of living is that you have to be disciplined. And that means you have to pay the price of being lazy and lethargic. You have to give that up. The cost of living is that you have to take guidance. And that means you have to pay the price of your pride. You have to give up your pride. All of these things are there. The cost of living is that you have to be ready to fail. And that means you have to pay the price of the deep fear within you of feeling less when things don't go right. You have to be okay with failing. You have to push hard for your goals. Even in Krishna consciousness, it's not that we will just develop this spiritual consciousness by some magical turn of the table. No, you have to work. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya sadhya sa sadhana bida nitasiddhasya bhavasya prakatyam ridi sadhyata. Rupa Goswami says you have to do your sadhana every single day in a regulated fashion. Madhvacharya says, I don't measure someone by how much they can do in one day. I measure them by what they do every day. The everyday principle. That's what defines you. And so, the fourth lesson is push hard for your goals. And the final lesson is, when you look at the fan, remember, in life, keep a cool head. Stay calm. There are ups and downs, there are twists and turns, there is unexpected things, there are shocks. But stay calm, stay cool. Once a reporter, she came to Srila Prabhupada, and in the middle of the interview she said to Prabhupada, why do you shave your head? Prabhupada looked right back at her and said, "Why do you shave your legs?" So she was speechless. So Prabhupada looked at her and said, "We prefer a warm legs and a cool head. Warm legs and a cool head. You need a cool head to practice Krishna consciousness." So Prabhupada knew how he was so cool, he was so calm, he was so collected, even in intense situations, even when people tried to provoke him, he was always cool. One time Prabhupada went on to a radio interview. So they always try to get some masala from you, to clickbait, some controversy. So Prabhupada knew that. So what he did on the radio show is he arranged for the devotees to call in and ask the first question. So they were on the radio show, so the presenter was thinking, okay, so he said, let's take the first question. So it was a devotee. So the devotee pretended to be a non-devotee. He said, "Swamiji, what is the goal of life?" So then for 20 minutes, Prabhupada just gave Bhagavatam class. So this person was thinking, my God. So this presenter, he was getting a little bit restless. He's thinking like, no, we need some more controversy. He said, let's take another question. Let's take another question. So then another devotee called in. So then the next devotee called in. He said, what is Hare Krishna? So then another 20 minutes, Prabhupada gave second Bhagavatam class. This presenter was thinking, my God. So he said, no, okay, now enough. 40 minutes, 20 minutes left. He said, I got to get some controversy here. So he said, I'll start asking the questions. So he looked at Prabhupada, he said, why do you have a temple in Haight-Ashbury, San Francisco? Prabhupada said, the rent is very cheap. He said, okay. So then he said, why are there hippies in your movement? Prabhupada said, they are not hippies, they are happies. So then he said, why? How did you come to America? Prabhupada said, I got free passage on board a ship. So the person said, who paid for it? Prabhupada said, free passage means no payment. So then the person looked at him and said, are you a freeloader? Prabhupada said, yes. So Prabhupada was just cool, he was calm, he was collected. See, in life things will happen. Pressure will come. Stay calm. There'll be ups, there'll be downs. Things come, things go. Sitoshna, sukha dukkha da. Don't take it so serious. Stay calm. Sometimes people will criticize you. Stay calm. No need to retaliate. See if you can learn something from it. Or see that their criticism is telling you what you shouldn't do in the future. Take some good from it. Stay calm. Sometimes people will have expectations of you. Stay calm. Listen, what are your expectations? Let me hear. But don't become drowned in other people's expectations. Use their expectations in an appropriate way. Sometimes people may say unkind things. Be calm. Remember, before you speak, think deeply. Do I need to say it? Number one. Do I need to say it now? Number two. All of these things, if we stay calm, then in the waves of life, we don't bring ourselves into more difficult situations. So there, as I was sitting in the brahmachari ashram, sick, the devotee gave me a good lesson. And some of those lessons I remember even today. Number one, when you see the ceiling, the lesson is aim high. When you see the clock, the lesson is don't waste time. Time is precious. When you see the mirror, the lesson is reflect. Remember your decisions, you'll have to live with them. When you see the door, remember, Push hard for your goals. Be disciplined. Be determined. And when you see the when you see the fan, remember, keep a cool head. Our Shruti Dharma Prabhu used to say, the head should be like an ice factory and the mouth should be like a sweet factory. So keep the head calm and keep the mouth sweet. And in this way, we can continue on in Krishna consciousness. So here, today we're talking about the invisible world. There are so many invisible worlds out there. And today I shared with you a little bit about how the devotees can see so many lessons in the world that we can't see. And the final invisible world that I want to share with you today is the invisible world, which means what you do behind closed doors. People see Srila Prabhupada and all the amazing things he did in the world. Circled the globe 14 times, opened 108 temples, initiated 5,000 disciples. They see all of his achievements. But what the world didn't see is the 6 years he spent in Radha Damodar temple in Vrindavan, all alone. That the world didn't see. That was the invisible world. What the world didn't see was when Srila Prabhupada came on the ship for 2 months in that cargo ship and had 2 heart attacks. That part of the story nobody saw. The world saw all of Srila Prabhupada's achievements, but what they didn't see was Srila Prabhupada, who woke up every single day at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning and was translating while the rest of the world was sleeping. What I want to share with you today is that don't neglect to spend time in your own invisible world. Now we live in such a public world. At every moment, people know what you're doing because it's on your status in Facebook. However, don't neglect to spend time in the invisible world. Don't neglect to spend time alone with Krishna. Don't neglect to retreat away and disconnect from all the other voices. Yes, people may not see that. People may not acknowledge you for that. People may not appreciate you for that. People may not give you attention for that. But it is that time alone in the invisible world, is that time alone with Krishna that will empower you to do all the other amazing things in your life. And therefore, let us take a page from Srila Prabhupada's book, which is the page which tells us, try to also ensure that you spend time in the invisible world alone with Krishna, because then when you come out into the world, you can do incredible things. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Maharaj, for sharing those wonderful 5 sutras of life to see the invisible world. So before we begin the question answer session, we have a wonderful event before we begin. So you all must be knowing about Gaurang Darshan Prabhu. Gaurang Darshan Prabhu, please, Prabhuji. Yeah. So Gaurang Darshan Prabhu has been dedicated his life and enriching a devotee community through his Bhagavatam classes, and he is a prolific writer, and he has written over 33 books. And all over the world, people and devotees are looking for his books, his classes, his courses, and most importantly, his deepening spirituality. So he has also come up with a new book which is known as Chaos to Calm, where he's presenting 108 practical tips from Bhagavad Gita. So today we are going to launch this a wonderful book by the lotus hand of Maharaj. So I request Maharaj to kindly open up the book.
I also wrote something in the beginning. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Chaos to Calm. Another incredible literary contribution of Gauranga Darshan Prabhu. I think he's going for world record. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your incredible service to Srila Prabhupada. Hare
So this book will be available downstairs where Gaurang Darshan Prabhu will sit and sign the books. Please collect your copies and get signed by him. Also, so Maharaj was speaking about asking question to yourself. And one of our devotee who is ex-Gopal's Garden student, she is born and brought up in a devotee family, a second generation, has come up with a very beautiful book series. These are like almost 24 products she has, which helps devotee to go and introspect their life, deepening their connection with Krishna. So these books are also available downstairs. You can look at them, and if you would like, you can carry them. So next one, today's Prerna Festival Sabji Cutting, which is done by devotees guided by Achyutanand Prabhu. Prerna Festival services done by IYS devotees guided by Haribol Anand Prabhu and Venugopal Prabhu. We also like to welcome those devotees who have come for very first time. So I request them to kindly stand up at your places so that we can welcome you. Please stand at your place. Feel free. Yes. So we would like to welcome these devotees in our Prerna Festival, and we hope you will keep your connection with the local IYS preachers and the preaching project over there. So let us welcome these devotees in our traditional way by loudly chanting. So all of your prasadam is been arranged in Bhaktivedanta Hall. So to go to Bhaktivedanta Hall, you can use the door where you entered. So kindly be seated. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we would also like to welcome our guests who have taken out their time and attended this program. So also there for them 3 times. Hari Bo! Hari Bo! Hari Bo! So now I pass down the mic. So anyone who has a question, please raise your hand. So here first and then back side down. You can send to him.
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Thank you so much for the lecture. Maharaj, just towards the end, you mentioned about the final invisible world. That is when we go behind the closed doors and we have to spend time with ourselves. Maharaj, sometimes it happens when we go behind closed doors, instead of the invisible world, the material world sometimes overpowers. And as in the 4th leg, you mentioned that we have to give up the fear of failure. But when, like as Maya is very powerful, and when we have failed so many times, that fear kind of becomes frustration, or we are tired. So how to overcome that so that we can actually utilize our time in that final invisible world? Thank you.
Thank you so much. So yes, sometimes when we go in the invisible world, inside the invisible world, anarthas come out. Therefore, when I say go into the invisible world, I'm not suggesting that you become a Bhajananandi, that you go to Vrindavan and dig a cave underneath the earth and then disappear. But what it means is that gradually we have to learn the art of how to be with Krishna. You see, when we're constantly surrounded by people, even when it's devotees, that's wonderful. Tadera charane sevi bhakta sanevas janame janame hoy eya bhilas. We always want to live with the devotees. However, sometimes what happens is we are not developing our own relationship with Krishna. We're not exploring the Shastra deeply enough for ourselves. We're not chanting really from an absorbed space in our own heart, but rather we're just working off the energy of others. And therefore, gradually, it's not that we retreat from the world and we disconnect. We're always in Vaishnav Sangha. However, there can be parts of your life, parts of your day when you gradually increase your capacity to be absorbed and alone with Krishna. And so this is something that will take time. Because what happens is when we're alone with no noise around us, no people, no disturbances, then we come face to face with our own lack of taste. We come face to face with our own lack of depth. And we come face to face. Sometimes people in the world today, they can't stand silence. Silence they can't stand because the moment is silent, they hear their mind screaming. Therefore, what people do is they constantly surround themselves with noise so that they drown out the mind which is screaming. But eventually, what we have to do is learn how to transform and control and connect that mind to Krishna. And so, yes, gradually, learn how to be alone with Krishna in a way which is very nourishing, very inspiring, and which then helps you to come back out in the world and associate with devotees in a deeper way and engage in the community in a more beautiful way, like that. Is that okay? Thank you.
Next one behind. Mic is with you? Yeah, you can.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. So firstly, I heard you first time when you were doing a podcast with Level Supermind, and that's the first time I heard you, and I was very inspired for that. So super grateful for that. For the question is, for me, like the visible mind is basically the conscious mind, and the invisible world is basically the subconscious as well as the unconscious mind. In regard to that, in the modern times, things are like moving very fast, and it's a whole fast-paced world we're living in right now. So once we start valuing time and the whole the perspective of valuing time, it leads to the concept of having the anxiety of losing the time. So how do you like deal with the anxiety of losing time? कि अभी time जा रहा है, मुझे बहुत कुछ हासिल करना है and stuff like that. So I need to have a lot of things. So how do we deal with that?
Yes. See, when you utilize your time appropriately, then although time is going down, there brings no disappointment or no sense of dejection. Because one knows I utilize my time for the right thing. See, what will sometimes happen in your life is that if you get engaged in devotional service, then years will go by. And you look back and time will just fly. But you'll feel a great satisfaction in your heart because you'll feel, I utilized time for what it was meant for. You see, it's like you shouldn't just keep money and then do nothing with it. What's the point of having so much time if you don't do anything with it? In Gujarati, we call this a kanjus, a miser. Someone who has something but they don't spend it for what it's meant to be used for. In the Niti Shastra is said, you'll never find a charitable person like a miser, because they earn all their money. They don't touch one penny of it in their whole life. They save it in the bank, and then when they die, it all gets donated to someone else. So in this world, you'll never meet a charitable person like a kanjus, because they give away all of their wealth without even touching it. Isn't it interesting, no? So time is meant to be spent. Time is meant to be utilized. And therefore, for a non-devotee, time is something in which their dreams and their desires are burning. Time is burning their dreams. But for a devotee, time is an energy in which they're learning, and they're evolving, and they're growing, and they're coming closer to Krishna because they utilize their time. So yes, the Bhagavatam says, Ayur harati vaipumsham udyan ashtam chayanaso tashyate yakshano nita utamashloka vartaye. With the rising and setting of the sun, everyone's life is being taken away, except for that person who engages always in the glories of the Lord, because that person becomes timeless. So if you utilize your time in the right way, then you become timeless. Once we did a drama, it was called Bhogi Yogi. So at one point in the drama, this Bhogi Yogi guru, he tells the person, I will give you mantra, but first you give me your Rolex watch. So then the person gives the Rolex watch to the guru. So then the guru takes it, he puts it on, nice. And then the person says, now? And the guru, Bhogi Yogi, looks back at him and says, now you have become timeless. So, spend your time. Time goes fast. Now I'm 43. They say that's the youth of old age. Still young. Still young. But for how much longer? Time goes. Hare Krishna.
This is the mic? Yeah,
Yeah.
please.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
And give it behind after.
Yeah. So my question is, it is an odd question. So I'm eager to just to know, what does the stick in your hand signifies? Means even my friend, he was eager to know that why
It's
Maharaj.
a walking stick in case I get taller. No, this is called a danda. So when one accepts the renounced order of life, sannyas, then we carry this danda with us for some years. So the danda has 3 sticks within it, bamboo sticks, which represent the mind, the body, and the words. And so we carry it with us everywhere we go to remind ourselves that we are trying to dedicate our mind, body, and words in the service of Krishna. So it reminds you of what your life is meant for. So we carry it with us wherever we go. In my life, I never wanted to stick out. I always wanted to be in the crowd. But now definitely I stick out. So yes, we carry this with us as a reminder that we must serve. We must try to serve others. Is that okay?
Hare Krishna Maharaj, thank you so much for this wonderful lecture and to give those 5 weapons so that we can defend ourselves in front of Maya. Maharaj, my question is, every morning we chant these 10 offenses, and the first offense is to blaspheme the devotee. So from our part, we can control blaspheming some devotee, we can control our tongue, we can control our mind. But when we go for book distribution, when we go to our corporate world, when we go to our house, when we meet our friend, so they tend to blaspheme the devotees in various ways, by philosophy, by logic, by this and that. And we try to refute them. Even they get defeated, but they don't accept defeat and they start just slurring all nonsense things. And as you said, we have to go in our invisible zone. So in the morning when I go in that invisible zone, all those things start churning in my mind when I chant. So what is the solution for this? Because from my counterpart I am not doing, but it is coming from outside.
Therefore, lesson number 5, look at the fan and keep a cool head. People will say all kinds of irrational things. Sometimes people don't even know what they're saying. Some people say one thing and then they contradict themselves at another moment. We also shouldn't take people too seriously. One devotee used to tell me, don't take the illusion too seriously. We get so worked up about everything. Of course, if someone is blaspheming and there's a opportunity to correct, then we try. But otherwise, why do you want to get into arguments with irrational people? One person once said, never get into an argument with an irrational person because they will drag you down to their level and then they'll defeat you with experience. So what's the point? Again, you'll come in and come down to their level and engage in a conversation where there's not going anywhere and they just say more and more negative things. So keep a cool head and walk away sometimes. That's better. So therefore, there are different options if you hear blasphemy. One is to defeat the person. The other one is to walk away. And the third one is for another time zone. We'll share that another time. So therefore, sometimes you have to know the austerity of speech is, the austerity of conversation is not just to say the right thing at the right time, but it means also to leave unsaid the wrong thing at the tempting moment. So you have to know the art of when to speak, how to utilize your words so that they have maximum impact. All right? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for your lecture, Prabhuji. It was amazing. It was nice hearing you. My question is basically that when we come to the temple, so it's very peaceful, like we meet our devotee friends, it's lovely. But in outside world, it's not the case. Like there's too much of violence, too much of hatred. Like for example, what's happening in a neighboring country of ours. So my question is that if anything such happens around us, so how do we react? Because we believe in peace, we even don't consume meat, but the people coming to attack, they come with weapons. So how do we react on that?
See, the thing is, when we see all of these things in the world, we have to realize, I have to become serious. I have to do something to improve the situation. I have to be an agent of positive change. Gandhi ji, he said, be the change you want to see in the world. So when we look at the world, when we turn on the television, we see war, we see hatred, we see fighting, we see exploitation. Then we realize the world needs Krishna consciousness more than ever. When I see all of these things, it makes me wake up in the morning. Jai Shri Shri Radha Gopinath Ki Jai. When I see all these things on the television, not that we watch television, of course, but when we hear all these things in the news, then it just makes me want to wake up in the morning and realize this is urgent, this is serious. We have to try to do something to improve the situation. So therefore, don't become intimidated by all of this. Yes, we're living in an age. Kaler dosha nide rajan. It's an ocean of faults. However, asti heko mahan guna, you're carrying something which can transform people's lives. So, Jayananda Prabhu, he said something very beautiful. He said, if every single one of us could become a little bit more committed to sharing Krishna with others, so many people could be saved from so much suffering. So we have to become a bit more committed. Martin Luther King, he said, those people who want peace have to be as organized and as driven as those people who want war. Isn't it? The people who want war, they're so organized, they're so intelligent, they're so... And those who want peace are just like, oh yeah, Krishna will do. See how it goes. No, we have to be organized. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said, this movement will go down in history for having saved the world from oblivion. So we don't know, what does that mean? Right now we're just quite a small movement. But what we're carrying is so powerful. But all of us have to dedicate praner arte diya vacha, with your life, your energy, with your resources, with your intelligence, with your words. Try to share this with others. And therefore, then when we do that, these things won't bewilder us. Is that okay? Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Maharaj, Dandavat Pranam, and all to senior Prabhujis and all Prabhujis here. Please accept our humble obeisances. Welcome back to India after almost an year.
Thank you so much. Happy
Thank
to
you
be
to
here.
Krishna and thank you to you especially. We all eagerly waited for you. I have one long question, but a small question. If there is a person who is giving his best every day, whether it be spiritually or materialistically, he is giving his best every day, every single day, making every day count, chanting, and meeting all senior Prabhujis and Maharaj like you, Radhanath Swami, Gaurang Prabhuji, Gaurang Darshan Prabhuji, everyone. But still, he is facing very tough challenges in his materialistic duties. And by the end of the day, he is frustrated. Means he is living in two extremes. In early morning, he is very energetic and very positive. By the end of the day, he is in negative axis, negative y-axis. So what should be his mindset?
See, you are saying someone is doing all of these things, they're meeting the devotees, they're practicing, they're doing their best, but still they are not where they would expect to be. My question to you is, if they didn't do all of those things, where would they be? So this process is elevating everyone. But the question is, where are you starting? So if you are starting here, I'm not saying you are here. But if you're starting here and the process brings you here, then you can't complain, why am I not here? Because if you had started here, you would be there, but we have to work with you. Understand? So therefore, this process works, but this process is very individual. And according to each individual and where they are in their journey, it will have a different effect. So don't worry, you are changing. Even if you can't see it, definitely your parents can see it. Why are you coming to the temple so much? You're not going to become a sadhu, are you? Don't do it. Therefore, They are scared. They can see it's having an effect on you. All your friends see, hey, come on, why don't you do what you were doing before? No, I'm not into it. Wow, you changed. So you are changing. You're not the same person. But more change still to take place. Just now coming. Give it some time. Everything comes with time. All right? Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I had a question that
This is the last question. Hare Krishna, where is the mic? Okay, yeah. So this will be the last question. Yes, ask.
Prabhuji, normally we are unable to see the invisible world around us, but by any chance we tend to see it. We normally see the negativity present in that. So how do we transform that?
So when we see the world around us, the visible or the invisible world, we tend to see the negative things. Yes, we see what we want to see. We hear what we want to hear. Isn't it? It's like that. They say even a broken clock tells the right time twice a day. So if you want to see something good, you can see something good. So therefore, we don't see the world as it is. We see the world as we are. Understand? Once there was a husband and wife. So they were watching another couple. So this couple, the man came round to the passenger seat. He opened the door very nicely. And the lady walked in and then he shut the door very nicely. And this other couple was looking, and the wife looked at the husband and said, just see, the marriage is new. And the husband looked back at her and said, no, the car is new. So what are you seeing? It depends on your consciousness. It depends on your desires. It depends on your cycle. Therefore, a devotee is always able to see the good. Vaishnavera gunagrahi nadekaya dosh. The great devotees nadekaya dosh. They don't see any imperfections. The gunagrahi. They look at the good qualities and they accept that. So we have to become like that. This is called saragrahi. Vaishnava, one who grasps the good, the essence. All right, thank you so much for your kind attention. Wishing you the best. Very happy to be here. Thank you very much.